Florence Nightingale. If I could give you information of my life, it would be to show how a woman of very ordinary ability has been led by God in strange and unaccustomed paths to do in His service what He has done in her. And if I could tell you all, you would see how God has done all, and I nothing. I have worked hard, very hard, that is all, and I have never refused God anything.
Far away across the sea, so the soldiers there would get all heck where the mothers.
Florence Nightingale was born on May 12, 1820 in Florence, Italy, to affluent British parents. Her father was William Edward Nightingale, and her mother was Frances Fanny Nightingale Smith. Her only sister, Parthenope, was a year older than Nightingale.
Far away across the sea.
Social norms back in the day dictated that upper-class women should marry well and focus solely on family and social matters. Nightingale preferred to study and focus on developing her intellect. She would study with her father and nannies. She wrote letters by the age of 7 and an autobiography entirely in French between the ages of 8 and 10. Nightingale's mother was a conventional woman who followed social norms and wanted her 2 daughters to do the same. She wanted them to get married to well-to-do men, have a family, be a homemaker, and socialize among other individuals. Florence, on the other hand, had a different vision in mind. She resisted to participate in such things and refused to marry. Florence wanted to perform her calling by God by helping the ill and becoming a nurse. Against her parents' wishes, Florence Nightingale pursued her calling to become a nurse. She went to Kaiserwerth, Germany, and enrolled as a student at the Lutheran Hospital of Pastor Fleidner. In the early 1850s, Florence returned to London to work in a Middlesex hospital for ailing governesses. She was so good at what she did, she was promoted to superintendent within a year of being hired. An outbreak of cholera had hit the hospital. The unsanitary conditions of the hospital aided in the rapid spread of the disease. Nightingale made it her mission to improve the sanitary conditions and the hygiene practices of the hospital. It took a toll on her health, and just as she was recovering, she was presented with probably the largest and most significant challenge of her career. In October 1853, the Crimean War broke out. British Empire was at war with the Russian Empire for control over the Ottoman Empire. Thousands of soldiers were sent out to fight this war, and in 1854 there were no less than 18,000 soldiers admitted into military hospitals. When more soldiers were dying from infections than from injuries from the war, Florence Nightingale received a letter from the Secretary of War, Sidney Herbert, asking her to organize some nurses and come to care for the sick soldiers. In just a few days, Florence and 34 other nurses from various religious orders sailed to the Crimea. They had been warned of the conditions of the hospital, but nothing could prepare them for what they encountered. Conditions at the British base hospital at Sectaria were awful and grew steadily worse as the number of sick and wounded soldiers rapidly increased. The British Army did not have enough medical services and used what it did have poorly. The barrack hospital where Nightingale and her nurses worked and lived was built on a massive cesspool which poisoned the water and even the building itself. Nightingale went to work. She took scrub brushes and made the least of the ill patients scrub the hospital floors from top to bottom. Her work reduced the death rate by 2/3.
Florence Nightingale gave her life to save.
She spent every waking hour caring for the patients. At night, she would make her rounds bearing a lamp, attending to patient after patient. The patients were so moved by her compassion, they called her the Lady with the Lamp, or the Angel of Crimea.
As a girl, she was taught at home by her father.
Nightingale used the experiences of the war to prove that a new system was necessary. In 1856, Nightingale visited Queen Victoria and Prince Albert and informed them of present conditions at the military hospitals and the reforms that were needed. After 1858, she was recognized as a leading expert on military and civilian sanitation. Nightingale's notes on hospitals detailed the proper arrangements for civilian institutions. Shortly after writing notes on hospitals, Florence wrote notes on nursing, with information and guidance on how to treat patients, along with learning how to be prepared as a nurse. In November 1855, a Nightingale Fund had been set up to found a training school for nurses. This was the only recognition of her services of which Nightingale would approve. With the support of wealthy friends and John Delaney at the time, Nightingale was able to raise £59,000 to improve the quality of nursing. In 1860, she used this money along with funds from Queen Victoria to found the St. Thomas Hospital and within it the Nightingale Training School for Nurses. Her work made her the first modern nurse. As well as titling her the first modern nurse, Florence is also known as the first nursing theorist. In Nightingale's book, Notes on Nursing, What It Is and What It Is Not, she addresses the importance of the environment on the nurse and the nursed. Health, according to Florence, depends on pure air, pure water, efficient drainage, cleanliness, and light. Florence fought poor sanitation and care for the sick, not only medicinally, but providing patients with adequate nutrition and making a comfortable, clean, warm environment for her patients. To capture Nightingale's theory in action, I will read one of her quotes from Notes on Nursing. While the nurse will leave the patient stewing in a corrupting atmosphere, the best ingredient of which is carbonic acid, she will deny him on the plea of unhealthiness a glass of cut flowers or a growing plant. Now no one ever saw overcrowding by plants in a room or ward, and the carbonic acid they give off at nights would not poison a fly.
As a girl, she was taught at home by her father.
Florence Nightingale received medals, honors, and awards from many different countries for the contributions she made to nursing. Nurse Nightingale was presented with a brooch from Queen Victoria, which is referred to as the Nightingale Jewel. The inscription reads, "To Miss Florence Nightingale, as a mark of esteem and gratitude for her devotions towards the Queen's brave soldiers, from Victoria R. 1855. The brooch was meant not only to be worn as jewelry, but also to serve as a medal and a badge of royal appreciation. She was also granted $250,000 from the British government, which she used in founding the Nightingale Training School for Nurses." In 1867, a gold medal was awarded to Miss Nightingale by the Conference of the Red Cross Societies at Paris. Her work proved an inspiration to the founder of the Red Cross movement, Henry Dunant, who said, "Though I am known as the founder of the Red Cross and the originator of the Convention of Geneva, it is to an Englishwoman that all the honor of the convention is due. What inspired me to go to Italy during the War of 1859 was the work of Miss Nightingale in the Crimea. In helping to set up the organization, she stressed the difficulties of work in military hospitals, saying those who wish to volunteer must not be sentimental, but downright lovers of hard work." Nightingale received the Geneva Cross with the inscription Société Française des Secours aux Blessés des Armées de Terre et de Mer, which is the French Society for the aid of the wounded of the armies of the land and sea. At the time of the Crimean War, nurses were not considered eligible for campaign medals. The Royal Red Cross was instituted in 1883 as an award exclusively to females for special devotion in nursing sick and wounded servicemen. Nightingale was among the first 31 recipients. The Most Venerable Order of the Hospital of St. John of Jerusalem Medal was given in recognition of volunteer work in hospitals, ambulance, and relief work. Order of Merit is a highly prestigious order which to date has only admitted 8 women, of which Florence Nightingale was the first. Florence Nightingale received the Norwegian Red Cross on May 10, 1910, just a few months before she died. It was given for her invaluable contribution in the Crimean War and to the development of the nursing profession. The Florence Nightingale Medal is the highest international distinction a nurse can achieve and is awarded to nurses or nurses' aides for exceptional courage and devotion to the wounded, sick, or disabled, or to civilian victims of a conflict or disaster, or exemplary services or creative and pioneering spirit in the areas of public health or nursing education. This award is still given in her honor more than 100 years after her death. The delegates of the 1907 Red Cross Conference said, "Her heroic efforts on behalf of suffering humanity will be recognized and admired by all ages as long as the world shall last."
So the soldiers there would get all her care where their mothers could not be. As a girl she was taught at home by her father who disagreed that Florence Nightingale